Get this party started. Okay, guys, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to our Monday night Team Boss Babes team call. We are so honored and have a very, very special guest with us tonight, Jessica Jahrus. I was lucky enough, my corporate mentor, she always kind of like throws me a bone for the Zooms, and she sent me a link a few months ago for the 5 to 8 star Zoom. And I hopped on, and this wonderful lady was telling her story, and I was just so moved by her story and loved everything that she said, and just her heart and her passion for this business and for her faith and all those things. And I wanted her to get on the call tonight and just share with us her story and how she's built this business, now a single mom of 2. She is a superstar diamond, a 4-time elite, including 2020. So she knows what she is talking about. So Jessica, we are so honored that you are here with us tonight, especially staying up so late. I know it's very late for you, 10 p.m. there in Florida. So thank you so much. We are just so honored to have you here. So take it away.
Oh, well, thanks, girl. Well, it's always so fun to be able to speak with other teams and to get to chat with you guys. So I was honored when you asked me if I wanted to. And so, yeah, so thank you guys for having me. So I'm just going to kind of share my heart with you guys tonight. I'm obviously pretty casual if you're cool with that. But I'm going to share my heart with you. And then I just want to inspire you and motivate you and talk with you about going all in, because we are still at the beginning of 2020. We still have so many things that we can accomplish this year. We have the whole year in front of us. And so I just want to share a little bit about what really helped me as I was kind of navigating different times as a coach. I've been a coach for about 5.5 years. And through that time, I have gone through lots of different ups and lots of different downs. And so I'm just going to kind of speak from my heart tonight when it comes to all of that. But first off, I'm a single mom of 2 kids. And so I thought I would just tell you a tiny bit about my babies, because they are truly my why. They are why I ever went into this business. I actually used to work 50 hours a week outside the home. I started my business when I was working that much with my son as a 1-year-old. And my daughter's 3, my son is now 6. So I just really had a desire to really make them my number one ministry. I was a worship director at the time, and I loved my job. I also just felt like the minute I had him that I had a responsibility just to be around him more than I was, because I really didn't see him very much. And that was really hard for me. And so I was praying over an opportunity. And just to be honest, I watched my coach for like 6 months before I ever even talked to her about this. I was either going to join her or unfollow her because I was jealous of the fact that she had lost like 30 pounds and I had about 50 to lose. So that was really, really hard for me. And finally I was like, I'm just going to ask her what she's doing. And so I did. And I went on to lose some weight. And then I don't know if you guys attend Super Saturday, but definitely go and bring somebody, because I went as a customer to a Super Saturday. I just went for the free live workout. No, it wasn't even live. They were just doing PIO on a video, and it was a new workout. And so I just went for that. And it was while I was there that I thought, oh my gosh, is this my answer to prayer? Like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? So if I wouldn't have gone to that, I don't know if I would have realized, at least at the time that I did, that this was a calling that was on my life. This was a calling that I was supposed to do. And so I'm really thankful for that. But okay, so like I said, I'm a single mom of 2 kids. I just moved to Florida like a year and a half ago, not even, maybe it was about a year and a half ago, August 2018. Yes. So when we got here, I came from Minnesota. And like, honestly, guys, we don't really have like a ton of, like, not everybody has a pool in Minnesota. Everybody in Florida has a pool. Okay. So that was like kind of new to me. We have lakes, but we have life jackets and all that, right? In Minnesota. But here, everybody has a pool, including myself now. But I just wasn't used to that. And so my kids weren't really used to, like, everybody here has like infant baby lessons. You guys seen that or heard of that? Okay, cool. Very cool to watch. Kind of like weird looking a little bit, but they're safe, right? So we walk into a pool party when I first came down here, I had Isaiah with me and my little Kira. And Kira was only 1. She wasn't even quite 2 at that point. And she walks with me, and I'm like being like an awesome Instagram mom. Like, I'm taking videos in reverse of Isaiah going down the slide. You know, I just think, wow, this is so great. And Kira literally walks right by me and just jumps in the pool. Like, no floaty, no life jacket, not even quite 2 years old yet. And I totally embarrass myself and completely freak out. Okay. Like, normal mom reaction. Oh my gosh, my baby is in the pool. She doesn't know how to swim. What is happening? So I jump in the pool, fully clothed. My crazy hair becomes like a dead rat, and I've got like mascara running down my face, right? And I like scream. So everybody's watching. And I get her out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, are you okay? And she just kind of looks at me, and she's like, Mama, I swim. And that is her to a T. That little attitude, like, she's going to decide what she's going to do, and she's going to go all in. Like, when she commits, and then she tells you like it is. So that was one of my most embarrassing moments here. Now, my son, Isaiah, you know, Kira's like, she's just going to be like a fierce leader, okay? Isaiah's going to be a leader in like a different way. He's just a little bit more like sensitive, maybe, where Kira's maybe a little bit more bold. And I'll never forget when he was 3 years old, I got a call from his daycare provider at the time, because by choice at that time, I just had him in daycare a couple days a week just to kind of socialize and that kind of thing while I ran some errands for my business. And I remember Nancy calling me, a friend of mine that ran it, and she just said, Jess, I got to tell you something that happened today. And I was like, what? And she's like, well, I had a new kid here, another 3-year-old, and he pushed Isaiah over and told him that he was stupid and dumb and that his ears are big and just all this stuff. And like, I stopped it, but it was really disturbing. And I just have to let you know that it happened. I took care of it, but you have to know. And as a mom, I'm like, what's up, 3-year-olds? You know what I mean? But really, when I picked up Isaiah and I got him in the car, I just started basically like taking everything I'd ever learned as a coach and like shouting affirmations at him. You know, like, I was just like, you're amazing, and your ears are good listening ears, and Jesus made you just the way you are supposed to be, and you're awesome. And I'm just saying all this stuff. You're smart, all this stuff. And honestly, he was like, okay. Like, I didn't even think he was really listening. So the next day, Nancy calls me and she's like, Jess, I got to tell you, it happened again. And I'm like getting like pretty angry at this point. Like, as she's telling this, I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm coming over, you know? And she's like a mama bearing it like crazy. And she's like, okay, but again, I took care of it, but you should know something. This time, when the kid said that stuff to Isaiah, Isaiah looked right back at him and said, my mama told me that my ears are good listening ears, and I was created just the way I'm supposed to be. And he starts like repeating all these affirmations. And as a mom, I'm like listening to the story and I'm like bursting with pride. And then Nancy goes, and then Isaiah pushed him over and started kicking him. So shoot, right? Like, maybe missed like a little bit of the point there, but isn't it so true, you guys, that when we're onto something so good, like right when we're in our sweet spot, in our comfort zone, there's always going to be that little voice that's going to tell us that we're not good enough, or that we're not capable, or that we're not qualified to do what we are supposed to do. And it's just like, it's just this voice that is always there. And we have to know, we have to stand firm in understanding our value, and that when we're called to something, he's going to grace us through it from a faith standpoint. And I recently saw this example from this pastor that I follow, Rich Wilkerson. He was talking about, he was holding up like a $100 bill. And he's like, here's this $100 bill. How many of you know that like that has value, right? We all know that. We know that it has value. And he crinkled it up and he said, if I crinkle it up, does it lose its value? No. If I throw it down on the ground and stomp on it, it's still a $100 bill. It still has its value, right? And I think sometimes, especially as coaches, when we're putting ourselves out there, when we're doing everything we can to pour into others and to help other people, there's some times in our lives where we're going to feel a little bit stomped on, or we're going to feel a little crinkled up by some comments or different stuff. But our value and our purpose does not change. And that's something that I kind of had to learn, especially over the last couple of years. I had to learn that no matter what I was going through, no matter how stomped on I felt, no matter how broken I felt, I still had a calling. It didn't mean that I had to quit coaching. It didn't mean that I had to take a break. It didn't mean that I had to be done with the calling on my life. It just meant that maybe I had to adapt in some areas, but it didn't change the blessing that I still could be for other people every single day. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I get these incredible new coaches. Maybe some of you on this call are a new coach, right? And I get some new coaches, and before they're a coach, maybe they're in my challenge group, they're like so excited, and they're like telling all their friends and their mom, like, oh my gosh, you got to be in this challenge group. It's so amazing. I'm getting results. I'm having so much fun. It's so great. And then they put the coach title on it. And all of a sudden it's like, so I don't have anybody I can invite. I know nobody. And the people that I know, like, I don't think that they'd be into it. And, oh, are you interested? Because I have this shake and it's 70+ superfoods from all natural farms around the world. And we have vegan options and different flavors. And I mean, it's cool. I mean, if you don't want to, it's fine. Right? Like, we almost like start downplaying this amazing opportunity and gift that we have to help other people. And that's what happens, I think, when we let that fear and those doubts and that inner voice that wants to hurt us get in the way. And so something that I've learned as a coach is like how to be scrappy. And what I mean by that, I think we've all heard the term scrappy, right? But in the 1930s, it actually stems from the people going through the Depression. And they got scrappy, literally. They would actually take the bags of flour that they would get, and when the flour was all gone, they would actually use the bags to sew clothes together to make scraps for like dishcloths or different things. That's where that term it actually comes from, because they learned how to apply and be creative with what they had, and they got scrappy with it. And so sometimes we kind of have to like adapt our situation, or we have to learn how to do that. I know, like, the first time I was talking to a customer, like, first time I, like, by the way, like, if I could just show you what I used to post, I didn't have a lot of guidance, and that's cool. But it was like one of those things where, like, my coach coming out post was very, when I was sharing that I was a coach, it was very interesting. I basically just kind of, I didn't have any picture with it. And I just basically was like, I've lost 20 pounds, like, hit me up. Like, I had no clue what I was doing. But my ex-boyfriend's mom from college hit me up, and she was like, hey, Jess, can you get on the phone? And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not going to know what to say. Like, I don't know all the answers. And I was so scared. No joke. I was up in front of people, in front of 1,000 people a weekend for a living, right? I was so scared, but I still got on the phone with her. And when I didn't know an answer, I learned how to get scrappy. I learned how to figure it out. I learned how to get creative. I learned that just because I didn't know something, or just because I didn't feel like I had all the value to add, I could still find a way to get creative and to find the answers and to help. So I also learned through that situation, and through lots of situations of coaching, that successful people get uncomfortable. So there's a lot of things that we do, and a lot of ways that I've grown in this business. Like, when I first started as a coach, I was so scared to speak in front of people. I was fine with being up in front of a crowd and singing and leading worship and prayer, like, totally fine. But when it came to just like speaking from my heart, storytelling, sharing, I mean, that made me want to vomit. I would literally feel sick to my stomach even thinking about it. And that's when I started to realize that successful people get uncomfortable. Successful people learn how to challenge themselves to grow. And I started to push myself outside the limits. And I really think it helped me develop as a leader. And it's still helping me, because obviously I'm still growing and learning all the time, you know, but it definitely helped me as I was getting there. So I want to tell you a little story about my brother, who and my mom actually, who I really think is a great example of going all in and frankly getting scrappy. So when I'm 7 years older than my brother, and so I lived close to home when he was a sophomore in high school, and I got to go to all of his basketball games. My brother was super super talented. His name was Eli. They called him E-Baby. He played for a 6A school and just was awesome at what he did. And so he was playing basketball games, and I was at every single one of them that I could be at. So I just remember one specific night I was in the middle of the bleachers, because I like to be in the middle of the court, and they were warming up, and it was so funny because Eli and I are complete opposites. Eli is very quiet, does not like, he doesn't like any kind of attention on himself, that kind of thing. He's not very social. He came alive on the court, but when it came to like social situations, that wasn't really his jam. And I just remember thinking it was so funny knowing that about him, knowing that other people know that about him. And yet you would see these like teen girls like filing into the court, and they'd have like E-Baby on their back. And they were always like, he'd have like a little cheering section and stuff. And I know that it made him like super uncomfortable, because he did not like to be up in front of people in any kind of way that would draw attention to him. And I remember realizing about like 5 minutes before they were kind of going to get started that it was actually Parents Appreciation Night that night. And at that time, my dad just kind of wheeled my mom into the side of the court. And my mom actually was fighting a fatal battle with cancer at that point. She ended up passing away like 5 months after this. But here's the deal about my mom. So she was in the wheelchair. I remember she had her scarf on her head. I remember that she looked a little extra pale that day. I mean, it was a bad pain day. You could just tell. I mean, at this point, she was in hospice at home. But she was committed. She was all in on what she needed to do for the rest of her life that she was going to be on earth. And that was going to be the best mom that she could, to support her kids, to be there, right? So she was there. And I remember seeing all the players kind of lining up in the middle of the court. And the coaches had roses. And if any of you guys have seen this, then you kind of know what I'm talking about. The coaches all had roses or whatever that the players were, that they were handing out to the players. And the parents were called to make their way to the center of the court. And I'm in the middle of the bleachers, and I look over, and my dad, like something happened with the wheelchair where it kind of got stuck. And my dad is like clearly struggling. They're on the side, but like it's in full view, right? And so it's getting more and more awkward. This poor sick lady is trying to get to the center of the court to be with my brother, and it's like getting kind of awkward. And I start to make my way down to help him, right? Like seemed like the right thing to do. So I'm starting to make my way down. And as I'm going down there, I just like see this like flash, like kind of like in front of me, like, what is that? And I look, and it's my brother. And he had ripped his rose out of the coach's hand, and he had ran, like sprinted in front of this whole crowd, something that he would hate to do to draw attention unless it's in the middle of the game and he's scoring points, right? Runs in front of the whole crowd to get to my mom, to give her this rose so that she wouldn't have to struggle to get there. And he just kind of hunches over on her and like hugs her, and you can just tell that he's saying something really powerful, because her face kind of crinkles up and she starts to cry. And all of these teen girls that are giggling and everything, you could have heard a pin drop. It was so powerful. And my brother, like after that, like stands up from hugging my mom, and like the whole crowd like stands up and gives like this standing ovation. It was just like one of those moments that will like go down in my mind as one of the most powerful moments I've ever experienced. It was just like so moving, this amazing image of gratitude and love like coming out there. And what I see in that, I see a couple parallels, just to be honest. From a faith standpoint, I see like God running to us and meeting us right where we're at. I also see my brother totally getting out of his comfort zone, totally seeing a need and running to my mom and meeting it. And I also see this mom that is there, that is showing up, that is giving her unmatchable, unconditional commitment to what she feels called to do. And it just totally hits me of this amazing, amazing way that we can show up every single day. Like, no, we're not always going to have these like powerful moments in all of our daily lives. But when I think about backing off on my calling, or when I think about like just throwing in the towel, because we've all been there, right? I remember like this image in my mind of this like powerful, imagery of just my mom being there and committing and going all in. And what a great role model that was for me, but also watching my brother get out of his comfort zone. And I always think like, man, if they can do it, I can do this. And so a couple years ago, I know that was really hard for him. And a couple years ago, besides my mom passing away in like 2008, I actually went through the hardest time I've ever been through in life, especially as a coach. And basically, I had been married for 10 years, and it's a really long story, and I won't go into all the details, but I just, I found out at that time that my former spouse had like a whole other identity, had like another name. I know it's crazy. It's going to be like a Netflix series. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe not. But another name, another family, like kids with another woman while we were married. My whole truth and what I thought was real, just kind of turned upside down. And I just remember thinking like, somehow I'm supposed to like coach through this. Somehow I'm supposed to be my number one ministry, which is to be a mom, right? Like somehow I'm supposed to do this. And yet I'm hurting so bad. But here's a couple things that I learned. I learned that no matter what I was going through, I could still be a blessing to other people. I could be a light. Nobody could take that from me. The enemy could never take that from me. I could show up. I also learned and realized that we all have 24 hours in a day. It doesn't take talent to show up, right? But continuing to do that discipline of being present, I truly believe God used it to help me get through what I was going through. But it also showed me that other people, no matter what I'm going through, other people still need this opportunity. They still need a solution. I still have this gift, and how dare I hold it inside my mouth, right? Like, I have this gift that I can share. And that was something that I took very seriously since day one. I know that this works. I know that it helped me. But my mission is so much bigger than physical health. It's about transforming from the inside out. And I was broken. I was bruised. But God wasn't finished with me, especially not in this coaching thing. And so something that really helped me was thinking through this story. I don't know if any of you guys have heard this story, but it's about these three guys back in ancient times. And it's really short. I know I've talked a lot, but it's basically this story about these three dudes, and there's like this king, and he's like on a power trip, and he's like, here's the deal. You all need to bow down to this statue. And if you don't, like, that's my one thing that I'm going to make you all do. And if you don't do it, I'm going to make an example out of you, and I'm going to throw you into a fire. Like, okay. Sounds like Game of Thrones or something. I don't know about you, but like, it's fire, right? Like, I might just be like, I don't really agree with this, but at the same time, it's fire. So whatever, right? Like, I could see that. But these guys, they were like all in on their purpose. They knew what they were called to do, and it was not to bow down to a statue. It was to uphold the values that they knew to be true, and so they decided that they weren't going to do it. So to make an example out of them, not only did the king chain them up to throw them into a fire, but he turned it up 7 times as hot. And the guard throws them into the fire, and when I'm assuming they don't hear screaming, the guard looks in, and instead of 3 guys in the fire, he actually sees 4. One of them is an angel walking around with the guys, and they are walking in there, and they're completely unchained. They are no longer bound, right? And they're just walking through there, completely unharmed. And what I learned while I was going through some of that hard stuff is that sometimes we have to go through a little bit of fire in order for our chains to break and to be set free from that bondage in front of us, right? Sometimes we get a little bit refined when we go through that fire. And so I just want to encourage you guys tonight, because I don't know what's in front of you. I don't know what you're going through right now. I don't know what your journey in life, I don't know where it's going to take you. If you would have told me that I would be a single mom at 35 right now, living in Florida when I lived my whole life in Minnesota, I would have thought you were crazy. Just a couple years ago, I would have thought that that was crazy. But we don't always know what life is going to throw our way, right? But I do know that pouring into my calling helped me not only become a better version of who I am, but it definitely showed me that, yes, I am capable, I am qualified to do all the things that I am called to do. And coaching was a huge part of that, not to mention this community. And so last year, or August 2018, I ended up being able to move with my kids to Florida. I have my babies, we're safe. It's amazing. It's not perfect, but it's incredible. And I'm so thankful. And I remember after we got here, shortly after that in October, I went to leadership. And at leadership, I was just so happy to have made it through the year. There's a lot of other things that happened through that year. I got a double mastectomy and reconstruction surgery all through that process. I mean, it was just insane, right? And I made it. I was like, I'm in Florida. I have my kids. Like, that's all I ever wanted. Just to be safe with my babies, and we're here and it's great. And I was at leadership and my mentor looks at me and she goes, okay, so what's it looking like for elite, for like 2019 elite? And that had always been a goal of mine. And the year before that, for the first time, I had missed it by 4 points. Like, that was it. But at the time I had a restraining order. I was battling for my kids, fighting for my kids. I was selling challenge packs on my Bluetooth on the way to court. Like, I mean, it was just crazy. And, I just remember looking at her and thinking, I don't know, I survived. Like, I feel good about that, And she was like, well, let's look at your stuff. And so we looked at my points. I had no new diamonds. Remember, guys, it's October, okay? The end of the year is December, right? So I had 2 months. I had no new diamonds. And I had some points, but I didn't have all the points I needed for sure. And so I basically looked at her and I remember thinking, there's so much power in what we say with our confidence. And I just looked at her and I said, I'm going for it. I said, okay. I said, I'm going for it. So I went back and I talked to my team. And I went to my teammates. But here's the deal, guys. I had decided, because so many times as setting goals, it's so important for us to not just say, oh, I hope, right? Or I wish, I'll try. I hear that all the time. It drives me freaking bonkers, because it is such a decision with the words that we use of like, I'm not going to try to be elite this year. I will be elite 2020, 2021. Like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen, right? And so I went back to my team and I had decided already that I love these girls and I want to so badly do this with them. But if they are not the girls that want to do this with me, I am going to find the ones that will. And so I came to them, and of course they were all on board because they're awesome. But we ended October and we still didn't have that many more elite points. We had some, but no new diamonds and definitely not enough points, right? So I think it was like November 20 something. I did a sneak peek with my team and I signed up 2 new business coaches, not like 50. Like sometimes you hear those stats and you're like, what? No, 2. Okay. I was thankful. Signed up 2 new business coaches. One of them did nothing, like failure to launch, like never even called me back, right? Got a challenge pack, signed up, didn't really do anything with it. The other one ended up going diamond on December 20th, as well as another coach on my team. So another one of my PS. So they both went diamond on December 20th. And I worked every single day with my current coaches that I had at that time. And I'm not kidding. I was doing calls at 5 a.m. for people that needed to do early mornings. I was doing calls at 11 p.m. for people that were on Pacific time so that I could, be there for them when they got the kids to bed at 8. And I was working overtime. But on December 31st at 5 p.m., we had exactly 105 elite points and became a 2019 elite team. And I share that story with you because you have to remember it there was so much brokenness. There was just so much that had happened, but it was a decision. It was a decision. And so when you look at this year, when you look at the goals and you look at this map view of this year set in front of you, I don't recommend putting an elite push in 2 months. I just don't. But I don't recommend it. But I will say that you don't have to. You have this whole year set out in front of you. And I'm going to share a little bit more of like some questions that I would kind of ask. I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget them. But like my 2020 challenge to you, kind of what I would ask myself. I would really write this down, and maybe you already have, by the way. Some of you are leaders on this call. You've already done this. Great. I simplified this on purpose because I want it to be very, very simple. But after this call, I really encourage you to like get with a success partner or somebody else from your team to message them the answers to these questions, and then to also message your upline coach, okay? And I just encourage you to declare it and proclaim it. Don't just, say like, okay, I hope to do this or whatever. Like, own it, okay? So some of the questions that I would ask is, how many people, this is very simple, how many people do you want to help each month? Like, have you thought about that? Like, sure, like maybe you have an SC number in your head, and that's great. I think Success Club is an amazing measurement of if we're moving our business forward, and I totally support Success Club at 110%. But let's think beyond the numbers of what SC is and think about the people, the amount of people that you could really help. Like, how many people do you want to help each month? And write it out. Like, first quarter, I'm helping 10 new people a month. I'm helping this many people. But here's the deal, guys. You can't just say, I'm going to do this. You have to actually match it with your actions. So when I was doing that elite push, like I said, I was working like 5 to midnight, right? Like, I know that's insane. It was a 2-month push. That's not necessarily my normal, right? So like, that's not what it looks like right now. But I had to know that for whatever my goals were, I needed to match that with my action. And intent and actions are not the same thing. I can like put on my fuzzy socks and get real excited about like sitting down at my computer and working, and then my daughter may wake up, or she might do this, and it happens, right? But just because I had the intent doesn't mean that I actually did it, right? So we have to match that with our actions. I have started this thing where like I started to let my invites were kind of getting away from me. That's like the number one thing that really helps me move my business forward. So I started this thing of like, I don't go to bed at night until my invites are done. Like, that has to happen for my goals. It has to happen 5 days a week for sure. Okay. Next question. How many coaches do you want to help advance their business? So that can be like ranks. It can be, income, but like, how many coaches each month do you want to help advance to like the next level in their business? I count like, I want, 5 new, I want to help 5. I will help, there we go. I will help 5 new coaches become emeralds this month. I will help 2 coaches go diamond this month. Like, those kinds of things, like really break it down and put their names next to it. And you might even have some unknowns. That's okay. It's okay to not know who those people are going to be or where they're coming from yet, because people can go emerald in an hour. You know what I mean? So think about that. How much volume and income would you like to increase? So I try to look at this like month by month, like where I want my volume to be, where I want it to be every single month, and where it's going to be from now to summit, and then summit to the end of the year. Okay, so just kind of like a mile marker of where it's going to be, but I do break it down monthly as well. And here's the deal. We cannot control every part of our circumstance. We can't control exactly like, where is this all going to come from or whatnot, but you can control the vision that you set before you, okay? And then of course, I just wrote at the end, break down how you would do that. So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to kind of leave you with, just looking at the time and stuff. And I want to see if you guys have any questions for me, but that I would definitely write out those things, talk to a success partner and your upline, not just one or the other. Do both, and really put it out there of what your intentions are and your visions are for this year, and then be action oriented and be a doer. Okay, guys, do you have any questions for me at all?
That was amazing. I have 2 pages of notes. I love those questions. I think they're so important for people to take ownership of their business and figure out, like, yes, this is fun, but at the end of the day, like, you are a CEO of what could be a multi-million-dollar business should you choose to do that. Not everyone has that goal, right? But the work, whether you want to help 3 people a month or 30 people a month, is really the same. It's just that consistency. So I love that questions that you gave to us. Guys, do you have any questions for her? I would either throw it in the chat, or you can unmute and ask your question. I would definitely ask questions if you have them.
I have one. It's really random, but I love that, like, your faith is super important to you. And so something that we're going through at church right now is like Sabbath. So I'm curious, like, do you work this business on Sunday? And if so, do you work it differently, or like, how do you take Sabbath into consideration? If you do.
That's a really good question. I like that question. I encourage my whole team to, like, really take a Sabbath. So I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I switch it between Saturday and Sunday, because I switch church Saturday and Sunday because we have different services. But I will say that, to me, like, for me personally, it really is not work for me to, like, post on my stories and that kind of stuff. Like, that's something I would do anyway. I love it. It's like my own reality TV show, and I love sharing my heart that way. But no, I don't do invites on Saturdays and Sundays. I try not to schedule calls at least one of those days. So I do like a coffee chat on Saturday mornings and different stuff with my challengers, but I won't do that on Sunday. So yeah. So if I have like a new coach and the only time they can meet is on Saturday, okay, but truly, like, that's time for me to be with, like, my kids, like, fully too. And I really love being, like, a hands-free mom. So, like, it's not hard for me to take a boomerang of us doing something and that kind of stuff and then put my phone away. Like, I like doing that. So yeah, so that's a really good question, but I think that that's important. If your faith is also very important to you, Hannah, I think that is good to think about. But yeah, I don't think of stories and, like, making a post on, like, a Sunday. I don't look at that as, like, work, but yeah, but it might be for somebody else. Like, if it takes them hours and hours to write a post, like, if you're a brand new coach, it should never take you hours and hours, by the way. But if it takes you a long time to, like, come up with content and think about that, like, you may be overthinking it, but at the same time, like, if it took me a really long time to do it, I wouldn't do it. So on a Sunday.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Guys, if you have questions, you can either drop them in the chat or you can unmute. I'll ask a question while everyone's being really shy. So what is your advice to coaches who want to shoot for Diamond and beyond? Obviously, it's February 3rd, like, sky's the limit, right? What is your advice? Like, how do you kind of set up a game plan for them based off of that goal?
Well, I would reverse engineer it. So a goal is not a goal without a date on it. So you need to give yourself a date, right? I think people make Diamond much more difficult than it really is. If you think about it, you're just going Emerald again. And if you can go Emerald in a day, and Diamond is technically 12 coaches, you can just do that, like, pretty quickly, I guess we would say. I went Diamond in 24 days. I encourage my coaches to do it in 6 weeks. But I also share my story of how I went Diamond, and then encourage them to do that. And I did get out of my comfort zone, and I did have people over, and I told them about the opportunity. I mean, I just shared it with my friends. I was really excited. When people didn't join me, I was like, wow, that's so sad for them, because I'm going to the top. You know, like, it was like, I was really pumped about it. And I try not to, like, ever lose that attitude of that confidence, I guess I should say. Like, it was like excitement and confidence. But whatever your date is, then you just need to reverse engineer it and think of it like 12 people. So then I would just say, okay, if you want to go diamond in 6 weeks, then you should add 2 people a week. You know, that kind of thing is kind of how I would look at it. And you know, some people might add 4 people 1 week and that's fine. But I would just always make it a goal every week to at least add 2 then. But if somebody wants to do it in, you know, 14 days, then then they need to be probably, you know, 50 times in their work. You know, like they need to have a different work ethic. And so yeah, so it's just what you're willing to give too. And I think that needs to be understood when you make the goals of like, what am I you should push yourself, you should challenge yourself with it, right? Like it should make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. At the same time, what are you willing to give? You know, like if I'm saying that I want to be, you know, I want to be 5 pounds down in February or 10 pounds down in February, but I am not going to start really working on my health journey until February 20th, it's probably not going to happen, right? So you have to really like understand, like, how much time is this going to take me? How many people do I need to be inviting each day? That kind of thing. Does that make sense? Was that helpful?
No,
Okay.
that's awesome. I love the idea of a date. I think a lot of people get very nervous to set a date because then they actually have to do the work, or they don't want to set the date and then fail to that date, right? But I mean, goals are going to come and go. You're not going to hit every goal that you ever set. But I also think that if you don't set a date, then you're just going to wait around and hope that it happens. And I'm just going to tell you, in the history of this business, diamonds probably never just happened. So you got to go get it.
Yes, to like it, when we give up because we miss a goal, I think a lot of that has to do with pride. It's just a big pride issue. Like we all have it, right? Like and when I like think about times where, you know, I think that there's been times in this business where I've been nervous to do something when it really just came back to, what are people going to think of me? Or if I fail at, you know, at this, what does that mean about me? And that's just a big pride issue. And it comes back down to like what I talked about in the beginning of like that inner voice that's going to tell you you're not good enough or you're not capable. And you have to put on your armor every day and just say, no, like I'm not here for that. Like that's not what this is all about. And once I started to like, I mean, when I went through what I went through, it really like stripped me. It was very humbling. It like, I lost, just so you guys know too, I lost, like, I mean, with where my former spouse was placed on my downline and where my second business center was placed and different stuff like that. And if you're a newer coach, that might not all make sense to you, but with the way that I had set up my business, I lost a very good chunk of income when his account was canceled and, you know, we were separated. And so it was very humbling, but I learned that I could either walk away. I've seen coaches do it where they like walk away because they weren't making what they were making, or I could look at this as like, hey, I'm still able, I may be rebuilding a little bit of my income, but man, I'm still able to be home full time with my kids. That was my why. So why would I walk away from this out of pride? It was all just like an ego blow versus like what's really important here, right? So just understanding that, I think, too.
Someone asked what your favorite PD book for personal life and for business is.
Okay. Go Pro for Business. I have all my new coaches start with that. I love Eric Worre. I love him. I love his techniques. I use them. I think he's very smart, and it's such an easy read. It's like so short. And so I think that is like a great book to start with if you're like, I don't know about this, that's a good book to start with. Personal, so that's my professional development that I would always stand by. My personal development, a couple things, okay? So book-wise, The Circle Maker and Draw the Circle by Mark Batterson are incredible faith-based books about, it talks about working as if it depends on you and praying as if it depends on God. And that's kind of how I've circled my business. And then I listened to VU Church from Miami with Pastor Rich Wilkerson and Don Cherie. I listened to them almost daily, for sure, a couple times a week. And then Joyce Meyer, I listen to her all the time too. And those are podcasts. So Joyce Meyer is like, it's all about, a lot of it is about the mind. A lot of it is about prayer. A lot of it's about mind. She's also been through a lot in her life. And she's very bold and very strong and funny. And so that's really great. And then Rich Wilkerson is just, and Don Cherie are really good storytellers. And they really make me think hard about my inner growth as a leader and as a coach. And so, yeah, those are my faves for sure. Yeah. Awesome.
Hey, do you guys have any other questions before she goes? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Well, you guys, it was so fun to be here. And if you do have a question, cut me off. Otherwise, can we take a boomerang too?
Yes, yes, yes.
Definitely want to do that.
And a picture too.
Yes.
Okay.
So boomerang first, maybe?
Sure. Let's do it.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Sweet.
Okay, everybody smile and wave. 1, 2, 3, go. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Okay. I had to get all the screens in there.
I missed them. Yeah, tag me in that, okay?
Okay. So that was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for staying up late for us. Sorry about the confusion on the time zones. But thank you so much. That was absolutely wonderful. And we are so blessed that we had you here tonight. Wishing you the best of luck in your business this year. And I hope everybody takes the notes that they wrote down and goes and puts them into action, because ideas die on paper. So let's go have an amazing year. Love you guys. Have an amazing night. Thank you so much, Jessica.